Hi everybody, welcome to my floss tube. My name is Amy. I'm Fiber Arts Amy here and on Instagram. I'm not going to do a regular floss tube today. What I'm actually going to do is, I'm going to do a stitch with me. I'm getting ready to do a new start. I did this once before where I started a Mirabilia and I kind of walked you guys through everything I was doing. I'm not going to do it to that degree of detail, but I thought I'd kind of go ahead and do a stitch with me while I get this started. And I've had certain questions, you know, over the last, I know, several months. I tend to get some of the same questions over and over again. Usually people are asking specifically related to like a Mirabilia or a Therese Wensler, but I'll just kind of answer some of those questions that I get a lot as I'm going along and show you how I do it. I'm also going to chat some about the retreat, the Queen City Stitch Retreat that is next October. For those of you who aren't going, hopefully that won't be too boring. It's just kind of, if I was doing like a life update, that's kind of what's going on in my life right now. As I've been planning the retreat. So anyway, I am going to stitch, I'm going to start Villa Mirabilia, finally. Villa Mirabilia is probably my favorite Mirabilia of all time. Let me see if I can pull up a picture real quick. Villa Mirabilia. Come on, internet. I couldn't tell you why I haven't started her before now. But Maggie's doing Maggie Kitschy Whips. There's Villa Mirabilia. She's doing it for, she started it for her birthday. And we were chatting. I was watching Stitch and Mommy. I was watching her whip parade for like the 8th time. Because I was watching it when I was putting names in and doing all the data entry for the retreat. And I didn't get to really pay attention. So now I'm going to try to pay attention. Anyway, Maggie said she was starting Villa Mirabilia for her birthday. And so I decided that was a good enough excuse for me to start. So I did decide, I know some of you, if you watched me before, you heard me talking about a little bit of angst over which fabric to use. I did decide to go with the Color and Cotton. Let me get it is Sea Salts by Color and Cotton. I have a fat half here because Villa Mirabilia is huge, although since I do 28 count, I usually buy fat halves for my Mirabilias anyway, and then I'll cut a section off, and that section I'll have left over for doing like smaller projects. So I always just take a look to see if I like one side better than the other. Sometimes there's a difference, often there's not. I'm going to do this side, and I need to make sure my fabric's oriented the right way. Villa Mirabilia is taller than it is wide, so I need to make sure that I have the fabric oriented that way. And with the fat half, you need the fat half, but I should have plenty with the fat half. So I fold it in half and half again to get the center. And what I usually do is stick my needle through, trying to make sure you can see what I'm doing. I usually just stick my needle through the center of those folds there to mark my center and open it back up. So that's how I keep my center marked while I'm getting it in the Q-snap. This is, of course, assuming I'm working on the Q-snap, which is what I am going to do for now. I may move this to a scroll frame at some point, but for right now, it's going to be in a Q-snap. So I did this making sure still that I have the fabric oriented the way I need to. I usually just kind of make a mental note of where my selvage end is. This Weigert base, it's got the orange stripes, so my selvage is on my left. And I'll get it my Q-snap. While I'm doing this, I'm keeping in mind where I'm going to start stitching. Now, I have the original copy, like, you know, pristine copy of Villa Mirabilia, but that's not what I'm going to stitch off of. I only have the one copy. A lot of you know that if I'm not above buying 2 copies at like regular price because I like stitching off the big chart, and that way I can mess one up. But Villa Mirabilia, I don't have 2 copies of. It's older, it's out of print, and I'm not going to spend a ton of money to get a second copy. So this is just actually photocopied on like our home printer. I'm going to let you see a tiny bit of the chart. So the center mark's right there. I usually start somewhere near the center. The center mark is right there, and I looked on the pattern, so I know that basically right at the page break is the center, which it usually is in my experience in Mirabilia charts. So usually what I do is I look on a chart first to see like where do I want to start, and I usually want to start with like a decent block of color, something I'll be able to kind of recognize the next time I go back to it. So I decided to go for this right here, all these like half triangles. So all I'm going to have to do is count over to get to the start of that block of color, and then I can get this block put in. So while I'm doing this, while I'm getting it in the Q-snap, again, I'm just keeping track of which way's up and all of that. But since I also know I'm going to be working down, right? I'm not going to be, sorry, I wasn't on camera. I'm not going to be working up right now because that's not my chart, what I have in front of me. I'm going to work on this, and if I have time, I'm going to do some other colors that are in the general area, but on the probably on this piece of paper on the bottom half. So I don't need a bunch of stitching room up here. So I'm going to move the fabric up some so that I have more sort of more room down below. So this is just how I do it. I always put the top bar on first, kind of making sure the fabric's pretty straight. And this is also what helps me make sure I don't end up misorienting the fabric. I know now that my center mark is kind of top center of my Q-snap. So even though I'm going to start spinning this Q-snap around to put the other bars on, I know that's where the needle needs to be when I start stitching. So that makes it easier to not mix up which direction is up. So I will kind of hand tighten the fabric a little bit, and then I typically, just to manage the bulk, will fold up the bottom of the fabric. I know a lot of people do this. Also, this Q-snap happens to be pretty loose. I know you can tighten them up by putting in the dishwasher, but I don't really need to because I usually do this anyway with having like a double layer of fabric in there. So I work my way around, putting the other bars on. Trying to keep things straight, and then the last thing I will do is kind of double the layer of fabric on the original bar that I put on. I find it a lot harder to keep it straight if I try to do that first. I feel like I need the anchor point to get the others on, and then I can come back and do this. Last bar again. And then you can just tighten them like that. Oh, I gotta get my glasses on, because once I start stitching, I will not be able to see. My vision has gotten noticeably worse. I have an eye appointment on Monday. I mean, it's just, I just need reading glasses, but I can tell I need a stronger reader than I used to. Okay, so then all I do is using my chart. It's really blowing it out, but I count over from where I know the center is. So, and I usually use my needle if I need to keep my place. It's more common for me to need it when I'm working off of a photocopy than the original, because the quality just isn't that good. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right, so I keep this tail in the center mark until I know where I'm going. And I count from behind. 1, 2, I'm bringing my needle up. I don't know that you can see. I'm bringing my needle up through the fabric to count over in between each. 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right, once I have my needle through where I'm starting, then I'll pull my tail out. I do a loop start. So I have one length of floss that's doubled. I bring it over to the back and go through the loop, pull it snug, and then just stitch. And that's that. I've gotten some questions lately about trying to keep my chart. I unfolded a little bit, trying to keep a chart off camera. I've been getting some questions lately. I said I'd want to answer, or try to answer. One of those is about what size needle I use. I usually use a 26, especially for a Mirabilia. Now, in all honesty, I will grab anything that is around. I'm lucky enough that my body chemistry does not tend to rust needles. I have needles in this house that I'm sure are 20 years old and have been getting used off and on, and they're just fine. I typically like to use a 26, but I will use a 24 because I have them. You know, if I pick one up, some kits come with a 24. If I'm working on a 36 or 40 count, which is not what I do Mirabilias on, but I do stitch things other than Mirabilias. If I'm stitching on 36 or 40 count, I do prefer a 28 needle, but I actually don't love the way a 28 feels on my hand, so I like something a little more substantial. So I typically am not going to reach for a size 28 needle for a Mirabilia. I think 26 is usually my sweet spot. So I was talking to somebody a little while ago too, and this came up, and I wanted to mention, I just find it kind of curious. I hear a lot of people talk about being able to see the holes in their fabric, and I kind of find the whole thing fascinating because I do not look for the holes in my fabric, and I think that's why some of the tips to help people see, like on dark fabrics and things, don't work for me. So what I mean by that is if you're stitching on black fabric, one typical tip that you hear a lot of is to put like a white towel or something in your lap so that you can see the holes better. When I do that, it actually throws me off worse. I find it very disorienting because it does make the holes more visible, but I actually don't want to see the holes, and I certainly don't want to see through the holes to a white towel in my lap. When I'm stitching, I'm looking at the threads, and when I count over, like when I was just counting over from the center, I was actually counting the vertical threads. Some of you, if you have watched me before, you've heard me talk about, especially if you watched my last stitch with me where I started a Mirabilia. I started, the one where she's sitting on the moon. But it's not Moonlight Lullaby because that's the one I just finished. Anyway, I started a Mirabilia and did a stitch with me and walked you guys through like every step of how I do it. And I talked about the vertical threads on that. When I am counting anywhere around the fabric or whenever I'm stitching, I'm actually looking at those vertical threads. So when I'm stitching on black fabric, like I'm doing titania on black, I'm looking for the vertical threads. And it's not being able to see the vertical threads that throws me off. And putting a white towel on my lap does not help me see the vertical threads. It does nothing to help that situation. Trying to look at the holes really, like, I don't like it. It's disorienting for me. But also I've had a lot of people comment on how I will, because I will like kind of jump all over a Mirabilia. My Elizabeth, I have stitches at the very, very top and stitches at the very, very bottom that I think are like 200 or more stitches away from each other. And there's like almost nothing in between. And I don't mind counting that. So when I'm counting though, and I think this really helps, I'm not counting the holes. I'm counting the vertical threads. So if I'm counting, let's say I need to go 10 stitches over. Let's say I need to go 10 stitches over, if you can see this from where my needle is. I don't count over 20 holes. There's 20 holes in 10 stitches, but there's only 10 vertical threads in 10 stitches. So I'm counting vertical threads. And it's an easy way to know if I get a little bit off, because if I find that I'm not on a vertical thread with my needle, well then I've missed a thread somewhere. I've either skipped one or I've you know, jumped one too many. So for I had a lot of comments after that last video with some people trying the vertical thread thing. I mean, some people definitely knew about it. Some people did not. I had some comments with people trying it and saying that they loved it. I had a lot of comments of people, which I hadn't really thought about, saying that it helped keep their, once they started stitching on the vertical thread, it was helping keep their thread from slipping under. I have to say, I've never had my thread slip under a fabric thread ever. Now I don't do a lot of over one, but yeah, I've never had that problem. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not going to go into the whole explanation here, but I would go back and look at my other video where I started a Mirabilia and walked people through that process to see what the vertical thread thing is all about. Or if you want me to do it again, let me know, and I'll do it again in another video coming up. Because I think it helps. Anyway, Villa Mirabilia, I'm very excited to finally be working on her. I'm glad Maggie decided to start her for her birthday, because it gave me the excuse I think I needed to actually pick it up. My stitching bug has been in a weird place here lately. So the retreat, which I'm super excited about, that's just taken a lot. That took an awful lot of time here in October. Just even all the data entry, getting everybody's details into spreadsheets and doing the random number generator to pick the attendees, and then managing getting people off the wait list, which I still have to do later today. I'm going to send out, I should say, today is, what is today? October 20th, 2022, Thursday. Later today, I'm going to hopefully be sending out some more waitlist spots that we have to fill. I've got some details I need to take care of, and all of that has been very time consuming. But honestly, I think too, I've gotten a little too focused lately on, like, maybe a little too focused on the retreat with my stitching, and I'm taking a little bit of the joy out of it. And so a few days ago, I started to kind of reset a little bit, and I gave myself a few days of just not stitching Mirabilia, and I think I needed that. I think I was a little too focused on, like, wanting to finish another one before the retreat. And you guys know I stitch, you know, 100 or more things at a time. So, you know, I tend not to finish things quickly. But yeah, I think I just needed to step away a little bit to remind myself that this is supposed to be fun. And I don't need to be, like, pressuring myself to finish something before the retreat or anything like that. And it's helping. I can definitely feel my stitchy bug wanting to creep back a bit. So, anyway, I'm very happy about that. I'm still wondering how to, I still don't love my Stitch With Me setup. This is, I think, probably the best one I've had, but looking at the image in the camera, thinking I should be able to get you guys closer. I just don't know how. So anyway, yeah, retreat. I wanted to chat about that a little bit. I've been doing like these little mini lives on Instagram to give people updates. If you're on the wait list, definitely don't lose hope. I'm literally going to be pulling like a dozen names off the wait list later today. Because some people, when it came down to it, for probably a number of different reasons, decided not to take the spot they were offered at the retreat. So we've got openings. So I'm gonna put people in, and I would imagine some of that will continue. Probably not at the same rate, because at this point people will have paid. But yeah, if you're on the wait list, I would not lose hope. Also, I heard somebody yesterday saying that we shut off registration on October 2nd. We did not. Registration's actually still open. And I'm going to leave that form open, at least for a while. In my mind, there's no reason to stop it. Anybody who registers at this point, your name is just added to the wait list. And as I've said before, people who registered by 10 a.m. on the 2nd, your name is, those are the names that I'm doing random number generator for to pick people to go to the attendees list. But after 10 a.m. on the 2nd, it's first come, first served. So yeah, if you're interested, or you just want to get on the mailing list, because if people register, I'm automatically putting them on the mailing list. You know, go ahead and fill out that form. You can find the link. It's probably still in my Instagram feed, and I know it's in the Facebook group for the retreat, which is Queen City Stitch Retreat. Maggie is really the one managing most of that, because I have like zero experience with Facebook. I never really did Facebook until very, very recently, and I'm just not in the habit of checking it. I'm very much a like, I go there when I think I have to kind of person. You guys are welcome to contact Maggie and I whenever you need to. If you have a question about the retreat, you can email us at queencitystitchretreat@gmail.com, or you can always DM us on Instagram. I wouldn't suggest using my Fiber Arts Amy email address for retreat questions, just because I check that very infrequently, right? I set this up just for this channel, and I think really set it up when I did a giveaway. So I'd have an email address for people to contact me at. I do check that occasionally, but not often. So you're going to get a faster response from me if you DM me on Instagram, or email us at Queen City Stitch Retreat. Pardon me a moment while I get a sip. This is like a thermal wine glass, but it actually has my hot chocolate in it. My thermal mug was dirty, so my husband grabbed the thermal wine glass. I feel like this is off. Hold on a minute. Let me count. 2, 4, 5, 7, 9. Nope, I'm doing it right. So retreat. The other thing that has come up in recent days about the retreat is the hotel. So we posted the hotel information, and our block sold out basically immediately. It was really, really fast. Sorry if you can hear my dog barking. And then some more rooms got added, but I think they're selling out very quickly. So the simple truth here is that not everybody's going to be able to stay at the retreat hotel. There literally are not enough rooms in the hotel for everybody. Maggie and I, when we, and Maggie did an awesome job finding this venue, because she's the one who's in Charlotte. I'm in Pittsburgh. And I love how motivated she is. I mean, she just like, I feel like I'm much more timid than Maggie. Maggie just like got off her butt and went out and found a hotel. She did an awesome job. Anyway, the hotel, when we originally were planning the retreat, we were not thinking there were going to be this many people. I know you guys have heard me talk about it before. I was thinking that maybe we should do a retreat for like 50 people. I just wasn't sure that many people were going to be interested in like a Mirabilia themed retreat. I didn't, there's a few things that either I or we did not anticipate. We've never done this before. We're trying really hard to throw a really great party for people who love Mirabilia. But this is our first retreat. We're doing the best we can. I did not anticipate, part of what I didn't anticipate was how willing people would be to travel long distances for the retreat. And that might be because I'm not super willing to travel long distances for a retreat. I'm going to drive down to Charlotte. It's a decent drive. It's definitely an all-day drive. But I can drive it. I think I'd be much more reticent to do a retreat on the West Coast, right, where I had to fly. I'm not sure exactly why that is. I know, financial constraints are part of it. I just didn't expect so many people who would be willing to come from large distances. So at the beginning, we're debating whether we're going to do this for 50 or 100 people. We also originally were thinking that people would mostly want to share hotel rooms, and that has turned out not to be the case. Apparently, almost everyone wants to have their very own room. So when we were looking at doing a retreat for 50 to 100 people, and thinking that most people were going to want to share rooms, and then the interest was so huge in the retreat that we kind of did everything we could to maximize the numbers of spots we were offering. So now we're at 144 seats. And it turns out almost everybody wants to have a room to themselves. And people are traveling from all over the country, and sometimes out of the country, I think, to get to it. So there's just not enough rooms, and certainly the hotel's not willing to sell out their entire hotel at a discounted rate for everybody. There are a significant number of rooms they're giving at a discounted rate. But they're not willing to sell out the entire hotel, which I understand too. These are all, when things like this happen, same thing with a sign-up situation. So many things have happened that Maggie and I, now we're not committing to doing another retreat, but there's tons of things that Maggie and I are making note of for like, if we do this again, right? Like, if there's another retreat, these are the changes we need to make. So finding potentially a larger venue and one that is willing to block out more rooms is one of those things. And I just want to say too, I really appreciate how understanding everybody has been about this. All right, give me a moment while I count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep. I do tend to sometimes expect problems. And I've been really very pleasantly surprised by how kind everybody has been about the process, how patient people have been. I know it's hard to wait. It was hard for you guys to sign up and then wait to see if you got in a spot for nearly a week. But I felt like, I didn't get a bunch of nasty messages, basically. And honestly, I was expecting to, and I just didn't get them. And I appreciate that. Maggie and I are doing the best we can. to run this thing, and I get the sense that you guys actually understand that, and I really appreciate it. Because I know it can be hard to be patient, it can be hard to wait for information, and I know it can be hard when you want to book a hotel room and, you know, the hotel is sold out of the block. So let me talk about the hotel a little bit more, the hotel situation specifically, because I know there's been a lot of people in the last couple days asking about that. I know Maggie is doing an awesome job. I guess a lot of that chatter is going on in Facebook, so she's been handling most of that chatter, and Maggie's bending over backwards to try to get people as much information as she can. So if you do not have a hotel room booked at the Venue Hotel on the block rate, you have some options. You can, of course, book a hotel room that's not at the block rate. Although they might be sold out of those two at this point. They were actually, because Maggie's the one who's like directly dealing with the hotel. She was telling me last night how surprised the people at the hotel are that we're like selling out their hotel. So you go, cross stitchers. They were underestimating us. And it turns out we're blowing them away with our business. But anyway, I know we've sent an email and posted info in the Facebook page about the 2 other closest hotels that you can also stay at. And also, so the retreat's in Charlotte. Now, I used to live in South Carolina, and I used to drive to Charlotte all the time for work. I traveled around a little bit a lot in the job I was in. I traveled a lot regionally. So I spent most of my days in various parts of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia visiting clients. And this was before I started teaching. I've been to Charlotte a lot. There's a million hotels in Charlotte. There are. So if you don't find a room at the retreat hotel, then I would suggest, you know, checking those 2 hotels that we've listed as being close by. But also, especially if budget's a concern, like, you know, shop around, you know, search for other hotels in Charlotte and see what you can find. I do know hotel prices are crazy right now. Like really, really crazy. So I keep seeing my face peering down, looking at my chart. My daughter and I, we went to a parent-child craft camp last summer, and I could not believe, I mean, I ended up booking a hotel that ended up costing, I think, like $197. Like, it was just shy of $200 a night. I only had to stay in that hotel one night because I could stay on site at the camp the other nights. Thank God. But, yeah, it was just under $200 a night, and the hotel was awful. It was, I mean, it was just dirty and smelly and moldy and humid and gross. And I couldn't believe we were spending that much money for such an awful hotel room. So I'm well aware that hotel prices are crazy right now. But I, you know, if you're gonna, I guess I'm not, it stinks to not be able to stay at the hotel, at the venue's hotel, but by the same token, it's not the end of the world, right? Especially because once the stitching room closes, we don't have other official activities going on. You know, we don't have like a late night stitching room or anything like that. So, Freya's here to hang out. So I am sorry that that there's not more space at that hotel. Just please know that, you know, Maggie and I are doing the best we can. And I'm sorry, but I'm not really sure, you know, there's not really a solution on our end at this point. Other than to direct you guys to those other 2 nearby hotels. And also, you know, you got, because I don't know how many of you are flying, I would really get in that Facebook page or that Facebook group And find people that you can carpool with too, especially if you're flying and you don't want to have to rent a car. You know, find other people, and maybe you guys can pool together to get transportation and stuff. We'll help you in any way that we can. We just can't like magically make the hotel bigger, right? There's just nothing we can do on that end, and I'm sorry. And thank you again. Thank you guys all for being so understanding. You know, I saw right after we sent out the emails about the wait list and the attendees, I saw some people who are on the wait list being incredibly gracious about the fact that they were on the wait list. I really appreciate that. I really, really do. Yeah, it meant a lot to me to, I think I was kind of ready for some pushback from people, and it just didn't come. People were quite lovely about it, so thank you. But I think we're going to have an awesome time. Maggie and I are so excited. We've got a million ideas for what we want to do, and we're excited now to put them into action. And, oh, so the best part about entering everybody into, like, doing all the bookkeeping portion of this, or all the record keeping portion, was getting to see what everybody wrote for what Mirabilias they were hoping to bring, or Mirabilias and or Nora Corbett's they were hoping to bring to the brag table. That was awesome. You guys, I was blown away by the variety of things. We didn't have, you know, everybody saying they were going to bring the same thing. If even a small fraction of those pieces show up at the retreat, our brag table is going to be stinking amazing. And Maggie and I have talked about, we haven't worked out details yet, but we are hoping, if we get everybody's permission for their pieces, we're hoping to do a decent film of the brag table so that, you know, we can post a video. It's going to be like Guinness World Record for the most Nora Corbett patterns, you know, stitched or partially stitched in one place at a time. It's going to be awesome. So yeah, that's basically what's going on with the retreat. I'm bummed that the hotel thing is stressing some people out, and that it's not as easy as we had hoped. But I still think everything's going to be fine. And again, because it's Charlotte, there's so many places to stay nearby. I don't think it'll affect anybody's ability to have a good time at the retreat if they have to stay in a different hotel down the street. So yeah, that's basically, I guess, retreat news for the moment. Maggie and I are doing a lot of work behind the scenes to get things ready. Luckily, we have a year to get all of that ready. So yeah, that's what's going on. Oh, I was gonna show, since I need to get a needle minder for this piece. I just realized. So I was shopping on eBay the other day. I'm going to show you real quick what I got because it blew my mind. So I go on eBay, and this person is selling like Mirabilia Nora Corbett pieces, and I got one of them. This one ended up going, I think I ended up getting it for $11. I don't remember which pixie this is, but look at how beautiful this is. It was $11. And it's perfectly stitched. I mean, the stitching is stunning. Okay, some of the rescue pieces I have, the stitching's not so great. This is fantastic. And I got it for $11. What the heck? Look at that. think it's beautiful. I'm going to need to decide exactly what to do with it. But it is stunning. This woman did an amazing job. There was only one other bidder on it. Just one. I don't know why. But it was fantastic. And then she also was the same seller. This, I was the only bidder. And I got it for $9. This is part of the Art Deco Elements. I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called. This is just the earth panel. But again, it's stunning. The stitching is absolutely perfect. It's like a machine did it. It is so, so beautiful. But this one doesn't have any beads. I think I'm very well may turn this one into a cushion or, you know, a pillow of some sort. I'm just blown away. This is, here, I'll show you her back. And I think the seller was the stitcher because she, they showed up nicely wrapped. The person hadn't done anything crazy like that one Teresa Wensler I got that was mounted on cardboard. Or like not even cardstock, like poster board. That still blows me away. They were like wrapped up nicely in tissue paper and taped. They showed up in a tube. And she left a note about how the metallic threads can melt, so use a pressing cloth if you decide to iron it. They're $9. I can't even believe it. It's stunning though. I absolutely love these. I'm really glad I was able to get them. And I kind of wish I knew the stitcher because her work is absolutely impeccable. That was fun. That was fun to make a nice find on eBay. So yeah, I feel like I've been a little tuned out here lately because I have been so kind of drowning in retreat work that I'm way behind on FlossTube. I barely look at Instagram. I try to get to most of my messages, but not necessarily in a timely manner. So I kind of feel like I don't even know what's going on in the world. A new Mirabilia did come out the other day. What was it called? I don't remember the name of it. But she reminds me of Snow White. Either, I'm going to get a picture. Reminds me of, she actually reminds me of like the Evil Queen when she was young, like before she became evil. Or, here she is. That's the newest Mirabilia. Number 184. So yeah, she reminds me of, and I think Maggie was saying she looks to her like maybe Snow White, like when she's older and becomes queen. I think she's lovely. She's not on the top of my list to stitch, but I do really like her quite a bit. Sorry, my dog is squeaking her toy. I got her a new toy the other day. Or yesterday. It's a candy corn. It's a doggy candy corn, and she loves it. Hey, Freya, can we give it a rest right now? No? Freya, can you go to Dad? Because I'm sure all of you with headphones want to listen to my dog squeaking her toy. Hopefully she'll calm down here in a minute. Yeah, so I don't have a ton, I guess, to talk about other than retreat. Retreat has been kind of all-consuming lately. Like, I'll show you guys one more thing. You know, so I said I was kind of in a little bit of a rut, feeling like not stitching on my Mirabilias a whole lot. I think for a little bit there I was super focused on like, what am I going to finish for the retreat, and kind of feeling like I needed to finish some stuff since I'm the host. And I'm kind of trying to get away from that and just enjoy stitching again. But I pulled this out. I'm going to start this, I think, here in the next few days. Sorry about the glare. Here, I'll pull it up. I've never seen anybody else. I've never seen anybody else show this. And I think I'm going to start it this weekend. It's Nora's Alphabet. It says it was designed by Nora Corbett for Golden Heart Originals, 2008. My mom actually picked this up for me at a shop, a cross-stitch shop that she was at somewhere. So the alphabet, I've always liked it, and somehow I never quite stitch it. These are absolutely like my colors, and I think it'll look great in my bedroom eventually. It comes with a Gloriana, or came with a Gloriana that the alphabet is stitched in. It's absolutely beautiful. It's, and honestly, like when I pulled this out, I was like, wow, I can't get Gloriana right now, but I have this one. Cottage Woods is the color, and I kitted this up so long ago. I actually didn't pull the DMC, but the DMC, so the alphabet is stitched in the Gloriana, and then the DMC is used down here in the fruit and the flower and the leaf. It's either a leaf or a feather. I'll have to look because it says on the pattern what it is. It says pansy, pear, and something. I'll have to look it up so I know if that's a feather. I think it might be a feather. But the Gloriana is all this. But the DMC, it only uses very small amounts of DMC for each of these. Although this thing is huge. What's the stitch count? It's 200 high by 250 wide. So it is a very big chart. And I have some MCG Textiles linen. That's how old this is. This looks very even. If it's uneven, it's only barely, and with it not being a face, like I think it'll be fine, even like the pear and the flower and everything. But this looks pretty even to me. And I actually love MCG Textiles fabric. I bought a ton of it back in the day when I first started stitching. And this looks like a very, very slightly off-white, like slightly ivory color. So, oh, it's oyster. Oyster. So yeah, I think that's going to get started. It might not get started this weekend because I'm going to be doing a sewing project with my son that I think is going to take up most of the weekend. But this is on tap for coming very, very soon. I think lately too I've been feeling like I shouldn't start more new stuff. And I think that's part of the problem. I think I need to start some new things. I think my stitchy bug will be kind of back and healthier if I let myself just stitch, you know, what I want and not worry about whether I should be stitching it. Just go for it and do what I'm in the mood for. I think that's the medicine that I need right now. So yeah, my son and I have a quilt block I'm doing for kind of sort of an exchange type group I'm in. And so my son helped me pick out which block to do. And he likes sewing. Like, he doesn't usually self-started on it. Sometimes he is. But he likes doing little projects here and there. So we decided that he picked out which block I was going to do. And we decided that I'll sew one and he'll sew one. And we'll turn his, it's just a 6-inch block. So we'll turn his into like a little mug rug for him. And then I'll send mine off for the exchange. It's a pretty complicated block. It's not hard, but there are lots of little pieces that go into it. But I think it'll be great because I can you know, we'll cut out both of them, and I'll do the cutting because I'm not so comfortable with my kids using a rotary cutter yet. I'll let him pick the fabrics for each part of it, and I'll do the cutting, and then, you know, I'll sew a seam and he'll sew a seam, and we'll just keep going back and forth, and he can copy what I'm doing, and I think we'll be able to stay organized that way and enjoy it. So that's what I'm going to be doing this weekend. My quilting bug has been calling to me lately. I don't feel like I have much time to sit down at the sewing machine, because sitting with my legs down, my foot can still swell up quite a bit. It can get uncomfortable. So I'm only kind of sitting at the sewing machine in short bursts. My ankle is healing nicely though, and you know, I want to say thank you for that too. A lot of you have been really kind. It kind of blows me away that you guys even remember. I mean, I know I mention it a lot, but you guys even like are aware that I'm going through this thing with my ankle. The fact that you remember and ask about it is very kind, and I appreciate that. But my recovery is going well. I'm slowly getting back to kind of normal life activities. I think it'll be a while still before I know what types of like exercise I can do. But you know, I'm able to make dinner, and I'm able to walk around, and stairs are still a little bit hard, but I'm much closer back to a normal life. I've taken some really short walks with the family. I've walked the dog. So yeah, we're getting back to normal. It's certainly a lot better than being stuck in my bed all the time. And of course, I'm loving the fall weather that finally arrived. It's beautiful here in western Pennsylvania right now. The leaves are all turned, or most of them have turned. They're starting to fall off. I went on a little day trip yesterday. I actually went to the framer that I use, which is on the other side of Pittsburgh. The framer that I use if I'm not sending it to Jill Renzel. And yeah, got dropped some stuff off to be framed. Only one of the things was a cross stitch, but it was just lovely. It was a lovely drive. It's kind of a gray, dreary day. I visited the knitting shop that's in that town, which was like the perfect day to visit a knitting shop. Kind of rainy and gloomy. I'm gonna get another thread started, and then I'll probably wrap this up here soon. How is it I always talk for this long? And do I actually say anything that anyone wants to hear? Oh, that's okay. I like just hanging out with you guys. I really do. Rather than finishing that block of color, I am going to pick a different color to do. I'm going to pick one that's very nearby. This is the floss list. Let's see, I kind of want to do like a nice color. I think I'm going to do this here. I want to say that's a yellow gold, 781. What do you think? Did I get it right? Is 781 like a yellow gold color? I love how you can tell how long ago I kitted this up. I've bought this floss, I mean, maybe as much as like 18 years ago. You can tell by looking at some of the labels how old it is. That's so funny. I just organized all this floss this morning. Yay! It's like a kind of goldy. I bet this is for the, well, I don't know. I shouldn't talk. I don't have the picture of the finished piece in front of me. I find that when I'm doing a start, I really like to get at least like one strand plus something of another color in. That's my preference. Let me see what time it is. I do have to go to physical therapy in a little bit. Yeah, I like getting that amount in because I find that that's what I need in order to easily go back sometimes years later, although hopefully this will not be years later. But that's what I need in order to go back at a later date and be able to relatively easily tell what part of the chart I've actually been working on. Sometimes if I just do the one blob, it can be a lot harder to figure it out. Especially with brown, because there's so many different browns. Well, there's certain colors, depending on the chart, that I find it hard. But there's so many different browns that I can be like, okay, which brown is that? So I'm just going to count off of, and again, I'm looking at the vertical threads, but this should be really easy to start accurately. I'd love to hear what you guys have been working on lately. You don't have to chatter about retreat stuff in the comments. I'm still interested in all of you who aren't going into the retreat too. I want to know what everybody's working on. I know I'm not the only one who's like this. I've heard a few people mention it recently. I think part of wanting to start that Nora Corbett alphabet chart that I just showed you a minute ago is that I don't know that anybody else who has it, or I've never seen anybody work on it or anything. I think I'm in the mood to work on some stuff that I don't see all the time. I can get very overly saturated with what everybody else is doing, and then I don't want to do it. I want to do something different. I did pull out, there's a group of us working on Titania on Instagram. I did pull her out the other day because I was down here and I was so happy to be working on her, and I felt like I really got in the groove with her. So she might start coming out a little more often. I think I need to stop thinking about what I'm going to finish for the retreat and just work on whatever it is I want to work on. I think that brings me more joy. And I don't want to lose the joy of stitching in the process of planning the retreat. That would defeat the purpose, at least for me. So, yeah. So see, that to me is enough to come back and definitely be able to figure out without too much trouble where I was stitching. Although with any luck, I'm going to get back at it later today after I get back from physical therapy. I've been working on some smalls recently too, just for the fun of it, just for the ease and relaxation of it, just to stitch without having any goals attached to it. So yeah, I'm gonna let you guys go. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed yourselves and had some fun just hanging out. I hope you're hanging out maybe with your own warm beverage. I've got my hot cocoa and you're stitching and relaxing for a little while. Yeah, comment down below. Let me know what you're stitching. And again, if you have any questions or comments about anything, it doesn't have to be the retreat. I've been talking about the retreat a lot, but it's nice to have conversations about other things too. So feel free to DM me over on Instagram if you want to chat. I hope you guys have a good day. Bye.